There are many things that I've done, and not only the 60 diplomats. Germany did 4, France did 4, we did 60. There's nobody been tougher on Russia.
That was President Trump on Tuesday, reiterating his administration's tough stance on Russia. And today, they struck again. The Treasury Department imposed new sanctions on 7 Russian oligarchs, 17 Russian officials, and 12 Russian companies. The list takes direct aim at Russian President Vladimir Putin's inner circle and is considered the strongest move yet by the U.S. Among those included Oleg Deripaska, a known associate of former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, also targeted Alexander Torshin, who's under investigation by the FBI amid allegations he may have funneled money into Trump's campaign through the NRA. Senior administration officials said the sanctions were not a response to specific actions, but to hit back at the Kremlin for, quote, ongoing and increasingly brazen patterns of behavior. The action freezes all U.S. assets, restricts travel, and bans business with American companies and individuals. With us for more, Michael McFaul, former U.S. ambassador to Russia and MSNBC international affairs analyst, also author of the upcoming book, From Cold War to Hot Peace, an American ambassador in Putin's Russia. Also with us, Josh Lederman, national security and foreign policy reporter for the Associated Press. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Michael, I feel like I ask you this all the time, but let's ask again. More sanctions yet again today. Are they enough?
Well, first, thanks for mentioning the book. I appreciate that.
One author to another, I know you always mention the book.
I really appreciate that. Are they enough? Of course not. And let's be clear, sanctions always take a long time to have an effect in terms of changing another country's behavior. That was most certainly true with the sanctions that we put in place when I was in the Obama administration on Iran. It took years to have an effect, and those sanctions were much broader than this against a much smaller target, the country and the economy of Iran compared to Russia. But it was the right thing to do. I support the administration. There has to be a response. And this was an interesting list, but a serious list that they put together and announced today.
Is Vladimir Putin going to feel this? Not only the folks we mentioned, but his son-in-law is also on that list.
Well, Vladimir Putin's going to say that we are encircling him, we are escalating, we are trying to destroy Russia. And so he's going to rally his base, his electoral base, and the people around him to say that we got to push back. So I really don't think these kinds of actions in the short term with Vladimir Putin will change his behavior.
Josh, let's talk about timing. The administration really dragged its feet initially on sanctions. Congress passed them. The president was reluctant to sign that bill or sign those sanctions, and then he signed it. Then the administration was reluctant to enact them. Now we're seeing more and more in what feels like a much faster stream. Why have things changed?
Well, I think this was a turning point, Katie, in that the administration seems to have finally grasped that they're just getting creamed over this Russia issue in the court of public opinion. They're losing Republican lawmakers, and that doing the bare minimum was not really going to cut it to deal with that. All of those previous steps that this administration had taken against Russia seemed like forced responses to really specific Russian actions. Okay, Congress said you have to sanction people, we'll sanction some people. Okay, they allegedly poisoned an ex-spy in Britain, we'll kick out some diplomats. Whereas this seemed like something they didn't have to do, but was a pretty concerted effort to show what administration officials described as a reckless, brazen pattern of activity by Russia was going to merit a response by the U.S. And I think that they're understanding that they have to go beyond what they've done in the past if they want to put to bed this notion that President Trump simply cannot stand up to Moscow.
Josh, earlier in the week, we heard that the president extended an offer to come to the White House, an invitation to come to the White House to Vladimir Putin. Are you hearing anything more on that? Is that actually going to happen?
Well, we're hearing that it's certainly not off, that despite the actions that were taken today, there is no end to the offer from President Trump to have such a summit with President Putin. Still, the White House, a possibility for the location for that. So you see this dual track. On the one hand, we're trying to show that we're tough on them through administration actions. And on the other hand, on the leader-to-leader level, the president is still offering some olive branches in the form of a potential meeting, refusing to actually criticize Putin directly. You didn't hear the president talk at all about those sanctions today. I think that's pretty notable.
There's also another piece to this puzzle, and that is two new administration officials, John Bolton coming in, Michael, and then there's also Mike Pompeo moving from the CIA over to the State Department eventually once he gets confirmed. What signal is that sending to Russia, and what could that mean for our policy going forward?
Well, both of those gentlemen have been tough on Russia before, at least rhetorically, with respect to Ambassador Bolton, somebody I've talked to and debated about Russia with him before. And I think it will reaffirm the Trump administration's policy towards Russia. And the conversation you were just having, this dual track, I would call it somewhat different. It's everybody's on one track and the president's on another. And so far, that creates some space. And what's interesting to note, if you watch the Kremlin media, Kremlin-controlled media or media close to President Putin, they also keep open that space. They say, we have the good czar, right, against the bad boyars. So the good czar, President Trump, he wants to do the right thing. The deep state is doing the wrong thing, and they still want to keep open the idea that Trump and Putin could get together and try to reverse this very bad track that we're on right now.
It's interesting to hear Russia use some of the same rhetoric that's used here in the state, that Donald Trump is the good person and everybody else is out to get him, this vast government conspiracy, this deep state to take down the president.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.